Hello friends. We have seen that if we keep any food item as it is in the open air for some time, some cottony woolly outgrowth takes place on the surface of the food. On the other hand, we begin with our morning breakfast with a piece of bread which is only possible due to existence of a biological entity. This biological entity, which is responsible on one hand for the production of the bread, on the other hand responsible to cause the cottony woolly outgrowth or spoils the food, is nothing but known as fungi. Today in this lecture, we are going to learn about the general characters, the ecology and the significance of this fungi in the biological world. To begin with, in 1962, Alexopoulos said that fungi includes nucleated, spore-bearing, achlorophyllous organisms that generally reproduce sexually and whose filamentous branched somatic structures are typically surrounded by the cell wall, which is made of cellulose or chitin or both. So that was a definition given in 1962. In 1968, Bessey said that fungi are chlorophyll-less, non-vascular plants whose reproductive and vegetative structures do not permit them to be assigned to the higher plants. That means an ambiguity was going on whether we place the fungi in the animal kingdom or to place the fungi in the plant kingdom. Why? Because there are certain characters which are very similar or related to the animals. What are these characters? Let us see. The fungi lack true roots, leaves and stems. They are not dependent on the light. They can occupy dark habitats, they can grow anywhere, they are non-photosynthetic. Prefer the hot, humid condition. They can invade the interior of a substrate with absorptive filaments. So these characters are related to the animal kingdom. On the other hand, they are very much related to the plants because they possess a cell wall, they possess a vacuole and many other characters due to which they are again related to the plants. So, scientists now place this biological entity called fungi in totally separate kingdom, and that kingdom was known as kingdom fungi. Which takes into account the different types of fungi that is existing on the surface of the earth. Then what are the characters which should be there if an organism belongs to this kingdom fungi? So what are the general characteristic features of the fungi? Foremost important, or the first character that we find in the fungi is they are eukaryotes. They have got a true nucleus, a nucleolus, a double-layered nuclear membrane. They are non-photosynthetic. So basically they are heterotrophs. They cannot synthesize their own food. They are not the producers, but they are consumers. Most of the fungi are multicellular, but that doesn't mean that unicellular forms are not there. We have the unicellular form of fungi, and the most common is the yeast. They have got a cell wall, but the cell wall in the plant cell is made of cellulose. Here in this case, the cell wall is made of chitin, glucan, polysaccharides, mucopolysaccharide, waxes, and sometimes pigments are also found. They lack true roots, leaves, stems. They are not dependent on the light. They can grow in any direction, and most important is they need a substrate to grow, and this substrate is the region from where they are getting the carbon, the nitrogen sources. Coming on to the ecology of the fungi. Now what do we exactly mean by ecology? Ecology means the interaction of a particular organism with the other biological organism that is existing along with that organism, in addition to the physical factors or the environment which is there or where the organism is surviving. So when we talk about the ecology of the fungi, we have to talk about the other biological entities which are related to this fungi. They can be plants, they can be animals, they can be insects, along with the physical factors, that means the temperature, the pH, the humidity, so different other factors or the physical factors which are there in the environment. Fungi play a very vital role in the biosphere, and they are responsible to maintain the balance of the ecosystem. They colonize most of the habitat on the earth, but they prefer the hot and humid condition, and therefore we find the growth of the fungi is very well seen in the tropical regions. They cause many diseases in plants and animals, but they have established a mutualistic relationship with these biological entities. Hence, with regard to the ecology, we have certain categories to which the fungi has been designated. The first category to which the fungi belongs to is called decomposers or recyclers. Why recyclers? Because they decompose a material and from there they are taking out the nutrients which is not readily available in the environment. That means they replenish the environment with the nutrients. Some elements such as nitrogen and phosphorus, which are required in a great amount by the biological system, are not present in such a great amount in the environment. In those cases, the fungi release these elements from the dead decaying matter and therefore make it available to the environment for the other biological system to exist and survive. The trace elements present in low amount in many habitats are again made available by the fungi by the action of decomposition or decaying. Therefore, we find that fungi as decomposers are very essential for any ecosystem to go on. So, here we see the shelf fungi. They are growing on the tree in a stack and they attack and digest the trunk and the branches of the tree. That means they are behaving as decomposers and they take the carbon and the nutrient and other trace elements from the bark of the tree. Ecologically, the fungi are there in a mutualistic relationship. Now, mutualistic relationship means they are in symbiosis. They are existing along with other biological entity where both of them benefit from each other. One organism gets some food from the other while the second organism is giving a space or some other nutrient to the other. In this case, fungi forms mutualistic association with other organisms which includes cyanobacteria, algae, plants and animals. To begin with, we start with the association of a fungi with the plant and we call it the fungus-plant mutualism, or in other way this is establishment of mycorrhiza. Now myco means fungi and rhiza means roots. That means this association takes into account the association of a fungi with the root of higher plants which are vascular plants. In this case, the fungal mycelium use the extensive network of hyphae and a large surface area in contact with the soil in order to channelize the water and the minerals which are present in the soil to the higher plants. The higher plants in exchange supply the products of photosynthesis to fuel the metabolism of the fungus. So, this type of association is known as mycorrhiza. We have two different types of mycorrhizal associations. Number one, ectomycorrhiza. The ecto means outside. That means the fungus is present to the outside of the root of the vascular plants. They are not penetrating inside the higher plants. In this case, we find that the fungi develop the roots on particularly the fungi form a sheath around the root of the plant, and this is known as the mantle, or we call it the Harding mantle. Here you can see in this picture a network is being formed by the fungus which is known as the fungus mantle, and inside this a small network being formed which is known as the Harding network. This is basically done by the fungus who belongs to the member of Ascomycota, Basidiomycota and Zygomycota. The other type of mycorrhiza that we find is endomycorrhiza. Now, endo means the fungus if it is present inside the plant cell. And when they are present inside the plant cell, we find that they form small tree-like habitat which is known as arbuscules, and therefore this mycorrhiza is also known as arbuscular mycorrhiza. The arbuscules which is present inside the plant cells, here we can see the small root-like structures or the tree-like structures which are formed inside. Now, they help in taking in the nitrogen, potassium, copper, zinc, phosphorus along with the water and other trace elements which are present in the soil to the higher plants. And the fungi in turn is getting the space as well as the photosynthetic material which the plant is synthesizing to live there, and therefore the fungus gets a good space to live and survive. Another type of ecological pattern that is exhibited by the fungi is the association of orchids. Now, orchids rely on the third type of mycorrhiza. Orchids are epiphytes that form very small seeds that does not have enough amount of reserve food material which is able to sustain the growth and the germination of the seed. And therefore, the seeds of the orchid need the help of some other biological entity, and that is fungi. In this case, it is seen that the seeds do not germinate if they are not in association with the mycorrhizal partner. And this mycorrhizal partner is usually a member of Basidiomycetes. After the nutrients in the seeds are depleted, the fungus support the growth of the orchid by providing necessary amount of carbohydrate and minerals, and therefore it has been seen that the orchids are in close association with the mycorrhiza sometimes throughout their life. Fungus plant mutualism is also seen in the case of endophytes. That means the fungus, if they are present inside the plant body, and therefore they are known as endophytes. The fungi that live inside the tissue do not cause any damage to the host plant. That means the host plant does not suffer from any clinical manifestation or any disease. The endophytes release toxins that repel the herbivore. As a result, the herbivores do not eat such plants. Also, it has been seen that the fungus confer resistance to the environmental stress factors such as infection by the microorganisms. On the other hand, it has been seen that the fungus gives enough strength to the plant and therefore they can survive in drought conditions. So, various types of fungal endophytes are there which have different roles to play when they are in association with the plants. Fungus plant mutualism also takes into account lichens. Lichen is an association where we find the fungi is in association with an algae, and sometimes this association can also be there with a prokaryotic microorganism, and that is cyanobacteria. So, in lichen we find the association of a fungus with a algae. The lichens can be seen growing on the surface of the rocks, gravestones, tree bark, and also in the ground in the tundra where plant roots cannot penetrate. So, we find the lichens can survive drastic conditions because they are in close association with each other. The photosynthetic organism, which is normally a cyanobacteria or a algae, it provides the carbon and the energy in the form of carbohydrates, and some cyanobacteria are there which can fix nitrogen from the atmosphere. On the other hand, the fungus which is there in the association, it supplies the nutrients, the minerals and also the protection from the dryness and excessive light by encasing the algae which is there with the help of its mycelial structure. This lichen displays a various range of colors and the thallus organization also differs. They can survive in unusual and most stressful conditions. If we look at the cross section of the lichen thallus, we find prominently presence of 5 different zones. Here you can see the zone A which is there. It is the upper cortex of the fungal hyphae which provides the protection. Zone B is the algal zone where basically the photosynthesis takes place, and these black patches are the one that means they are the algae or the cyanobacteria. Zone C is the medulla of the fungal hyphae. After that we have zone D where we find the lower cortex is there which provides the protection. After zone D, we find there is another zone known as zone E, which is forming rhizines. That means they are the structure responsible to anchor the thallus to the substrate. After the fungus and plant association, we now move on to the association of the fungus with the animal, and therefore this is known as the fungus-animal mutualism. Now, when we talk about the fungus-animal mutualism, we have to take into account certain examples. For example, the association between the species of Basidiomycota and the scale insects. Here you can see the picture where we find these structures. Now, these are the structures where we find the insects are being protected by the fungal mycelium. The scale insects foster a flow of nutrients from the parasitic plant to the fungus, and the fungal mycelium covers and protects the scale colonies. Therefore, the fungus is getting the help of the insects because it wants to disseminate the spores, and the insects are very good source to spread the spores to the other regions so that the fungus could increase its population and can propagate. The second example is seen in the case of leaf cutting ants, which is found in Central and South America. Now, it has been seen that these leaf cutting ants are basically, they are farming fungi. Why? Because these leaf cutting ants, they take the leaves and they cut it down into small pieces, into small discs, and they allow the fungus to grow on these discs. The fungus on one hand is getting the nutrients from the leaves and therefore growing over there. After some time, the ants feed on these fungus which are growing on the leaves. So, it is an association. They are harboring fungus or they are cultivating fungus because they want their meal. The fungus receives a steady supply of leaves and the freedom from the competition. On the other hand, the ants feed on the fungi that they are cultivating. So, this is an example of the fungus-animal mutualism seen in the case of leaf cutting ant. Moving on with our third topic, that is the significance of this fungi. Why do we need this fungi, or why do we need to study about this fungi? The role of fungi is seen in the case of medicine, or the foremost important role we find is in the case of medicine. We all know the first antibiotic that was discovered was penicillin by Alexander Fleming. This antibiotic penicillin comes from a fungus known as Penicillium notatum and Penicillium chrysogenum. The other important antibiotic is streptomycin, discovered by Waxman, which was used to cure the disease called tuberculosis. This streptomycin is secreted or produced by another actinomycetes, which is again a fungus called Streptomyces graeceus. Griseofulvin is another antifungal antibiotic produced by Penicillium griseofulvin. So, these are the important antibiotics, or few important antibiotics that are produced from the fungus. The fungi have got a very important role in the industry. Now, this industry, when I say, means the different type of industries. The first industry that I begin with is the alcoholic industry, or the fungi which are used in the alcoholic fermentation. When we refer to the alcoholic fermentation, we basically mean by the breaking down of glucose in the aqueous form into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. Some of the industries are using this ethyl alcohol, while the other industry is using the carbon dioxide. So, let us first talk about the ethanol or the ethyl alcohol which is produced. In the brewing industry, or when it is going on for the preparation of the beverages, we have to break down the starch which is coming from malt, wheat. This breaking down of starch is known as saccharification, which is done with the help of the fungi like Mucor racemosus, Mucor roxi, Aspergillus flavus, and many species of rhizopus. So, what they are doing is they are breaking down the starch into glucose. This glucose, that is in the second stage, is metabolized by another fungus which is unicellular called yeast. So, this glucose is further broken down into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. Now, in the brewing industry, this ethyl alcohol is used for the preparation of different type of drinks. The other industry which is going on along with this is the baking industry, where the carbon dioxide which is produced by the fermentation of the sugar by the yeast is being used for making the bread and other products. This carbon dioxide causes the dough to rise and therefore makes the bread lighter. The third industry which is going on along with it is because in the brewing industry we have the carbon dioxide as a byproduct. Now this byproduct is collected, solidified and sold as dry ice, which is again a very important component for many other industries. Another important industry is the preparation of the enzymes. There are many enzymes which are prepared or isolated by the fungus. Say for example amylase, which is responsible to break down starch. The species of Aspergillus like Aspergillus niger, Aspergillus oryzae is used for the production of amylase. Invertase is another enzyme which hydrolyzes the sucrose to a mixture of glucose and fructose is produced by Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Protease, lipase, xylanase, phytase, alpha glucanase are other enzymes which are very much important in the industry, and all of these are produced by the fungi. For example, if we talk about the detergent industry, they use many enzymes for the removal of the stain. Now stain we know can be of different type. For example, if we want to remove a protein stain, we need the help of protease produced by a fungi. If we want to remove starch stain, we need amylase produced by the fungi. And if we want to remove a stain caused by a lipid or a fat molecule, we need the help of a lipase, which is again produced by an enzyme. Like this, cellulase, mannase, all these are enzymes which are needed in the manufacture of detergent, and all of them are produced by fungi. Preparation of the organic acid is another industry which is very beneficial and is dependent totally on the enzymes produced by the fungi. The oxalic acid, citric acid, gluconic acid, gallic acid, fumaric acid, all these organic acids are produced from the species of Aspergillus, Penicillium or Rhizopus. The fourth most important industry is the food industry, and the special food we are talking about is the cheese industry. The cheese gets its characteristic texture, aroma and flavor with the help of fungi only. The two important cheese I am going to talk about is Camembert cheese. Now this Camembert cheese is soft, and this is only possible because the ripening of the cheese is done with the help of a fungi which is known as Penicillium camemberti and Penicillium cassicolum. The second type of cheese is Roquefort cheese. The Roquefort cheese is soft, they are green and blue vein cheese, and this is done with the help of Penicillium roqueforti. So here we find that cheese industry is also surviving because of the existence of the fungi. Manufacturing of proteins and vitamins. We all know we need the help of protein. Mushroom is one of the important fungus which is consumed by the human because it contains enough amount of protein. On the other hand, the yeast are also very good source of protein, and therefore the yeast is sold as food yeast or sometimes nutritional yeast because it contains 15% protein and huge amount of vitamin B. The yeast which is mostly sold as nutritional yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae and Candida utilis. Since fungi are a good source of vitamin B complex, we also get the vitamins like riboflavin from Ashby gossypi. Yeast and molds synthesize ergosterol, which again contains a huge amount of vitamin D. Another very favorite thing we all consume is chocolates. Now chocolates are coming from cocoa beans. If we consume cocoa beans as it is very bitter. But cocoa beans are made sweeter and we have the production of chocolates only because of the existence of the fungi. These cocoa beans contain high amount of sugar, and this sugar favors the growth of the yeast cells, and it ferments the sugar to ethyl alcohol in an anaerobic heap where we have the complete absence of the oxygen. 11 different species of yeast have been isolated, which include Saccharomyces cerevisiae, Candida rugosa and many other. They hydrolyze the pectin which is there in the sugar coat, and therefore the cocoa beans are not bitter, and the chocolate is prepared from this cocoa beans. The lichen like Rossella lichen is used for the preparation of litmus paper, which can tell you whether the medium is acidic or basic. So we find the fungi has got numerous role in the bread industry, cheese ripening, cocoa, in the enzyme production, flavoring, mycoproteins, organic acids, pigments and alcoholic beverages. Now let's talk about the role of fungi in agriculture. In agriculture, it has got a negative role where it causes different type of diseases like potato blight, downy mildew, ergot disease, the apple scab, the red rot of sugarcane. On the other hand, it is also doing the destruction of the timber, destruction of textile, paper, and also causing many diseases in the human. Along with it, we find the fungi are responsible for the spoilage of different type of food items. Fungi especially prefer the acidic media, and therefore the fruit like citrus fruit, the strawberry are very good source for the growth of the fungi. The positive role we are talking about, which is there in the agriculture, is they help to increase the fertility of the soil. They produce gibberellin, which is a good growth hormone. They can be used as biopesticide, and also they can be used as food and as food producers. Fungi have also got a very good role because they are used in clothing. The popular cloth that we use, the stone washed denim jeans, is only possible because they are treated with the enzymes of a fungi called trichoderma to give the appearance of the wear and the tear. In the research purpose also, we use a species of Neurospora because they can be used to understand the laws of heredity and the DNA recycling. So we can conclude that the fungi are ubiquitous. They are found everywhere on the earth, but they prefer hot and humid conditions. They cause many diseases in plants and therefore leads to economic loss. So ecologically, they are decomposers, but has very important roles to play in the industry like medicine, agriculture, food, chocolate, cheese and so on. Thank you.